Hi everyone.
Hello.
I'm Margaret. This is Sarah.
We're a Tenants and Residents Association, which traditionally meant that it was all about people and their rent arrears, where we decided to look after our environment. As Margaret's explained, this place here is particularly special, being that it did need a lot of TLC, and having the Phytology project and Michael here has really given it that sort of that relief that it needs for people to come in and explore the biodiversity that we've forgotten about. You know, normally as humans we walk through, oh, we could have a house here, we could do this, but actually nature is the most important thing, and having all of these sort of medicinal herbs and things that we can access without the idea of, okay, in order to heal ourselves, we go to a pharmacy or something. It's actually, it all grows wild here. Across our whole estate as well, what we've tried to do is look at all the different pockets of disused green spaces and how we can transform those, bring them back to the use of the community. Because basically what we've seen is that through environmental rejuvenation actually creates social cohesion. So by updating the environment, people take more pride in where they live, and that within itself transforms people. So, you know, something is a bit grey, a bit miserable, kind of reflects what people do every day. When you update something, bit of colour, bit of sort of greenery, some flowers, not always flowers, herbs and vegetables as well, it really makes a big difference to the way people view themselves, view their neighbours, and they've actually got something to interact with. So normally you'd be like, oh, got nothing to say to you, but now it's like, oh, look at my coriander, look at my tomatoes, look at that pretty flower. So people actually have something to talk about now.
We'll talk about other things as well, to be perfectly honest, but let's go with the coriander and the tomatoes. No, what Sarah has said is absolutely it. The estate was looking run down. We're a local authority, Town Hamlets Council. They do their best. They haven't got any money. So what we decided to do was look at our empty spaces that have been locked up for years. Nobody could access, nobody could do anything.
20 years, sometimes longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one particular site that you guys will be seeing today has been locked up since I was 9. Now I'm 35, you know, it's a lot of years. Let's go nearer 60. But no, seriously, but now when you see it, it's the first urban orchard, but we'll talk about that as we go on our tour. And what I need to say is as well is residents, we've always been a good community here and quite neighbourly if you like, but since we've had our growing projects, since we've looked at the areas and looked at what that area needs, it's made a huge difference to how our residents interact with each other. People that would not have said a word to each other now will talk to each other, or at least acknowledge each other. And what I need to say as well is we've got a really diverse community out there, really diverse, and it suits the need for everybody. You know, it's like finding common ground. We've found some common ground that interlinks residents with each other.
Well, we haven't found it, we've kind of just taken over it.
Yeah, exactly. Should we start?
Yeah, sure.
Would you like to follow us then,
Yeah,
guys?
rather than talking about it, it's best that you all actually see it. And as I mentioned, it's not just about allotments, as everyone thinks, sort of spaces for children, spaces for, you know, even people that don't live on our estate benefit from sort of what happens here.
Right, guys, we're going to go this way. While we're here, can I just point something out that really gives you an understanding of what us on the estate are about? The park area there, as you see, is Middleton Green, and there was a road that ran through the middle of it. And what we decided as a group, that there was lots of drug dealing that went on in the road there. The cars used to stop all the time, day in, day out, night time, daytime, you name it. So we decided to do something about it. We leafleted, we sat around the drug dealers, we didn't get any, by the way, and we formed a dialogue with them. And then what we did is we started a campaign to get the road, where the bollards are, there was a road that went right the way through. We got the road closed and then instigated the money together to have the play area put there. What we did as well at the consultation process, we had in the community centre, we had around 200 people that came and give their views of what, you know, what they felt. And these 5 guys turned up. I'm just going to tell you this little story, but we will move quickly after that. 5 guys turned up, which were our main great drug dealers. And the community saying, they can't come in, they can't come in. And I said, well, you know, they need to come in because they, you know, they're part of our community, albeit not doing what we'd like them to be doing. So they came in, they had a cup of tea and a sandwich, they looked at the boards, and we had 5 objections to the road closures, and you can imagine who they were. But what happened, the consequence of that is we got in some dialogue with them, and the agreement was that they wouldn't actually drug deal when the school kids were coming out of school. So in our view, that was an absolute win for us. Don't condone what they do, don't even acknowledge it, but at least we have 4 schools that surround us. They weren't there at that particular time. So it's, you know, it's something that we're quite proud of.
It all just starts with dialogue. It's just talking. So, you know, the trouble that we used to have on the estate, just by talking to them and explaining why we're doing things, has really seen the transformation of the way they act towards what we're actually doing. So rather than sort of throwing eggs like they used to, they now police it and tell people to leave it alone, because that's where their brothers, their sisters and their parents use the sites. So.
And the other side of it is they got sick and tired of me actually going and sitting next to them on the stairwells.
Well, they do go running when they see us coming along. So what we're doing now is we're coming up to one of our growing sites. This was the second one that was put on the estate. The area that we're coming up to used to just be a very boring concrete hard standing surface in the middle of a piece of grass. Please welcome in, guys. You can come and have a quick poke around. But basically how this was, it was just this hard standing surface, very broken, very hideous, covered in moss, no good to man or beast whatsoever. So we managed to get some corporate volunteers to donate their time and some funds to build some raised beds. As you go around the estate, it does look a bit Stepford housewifey in terms of them all being very similar in terms of being raised with railway sleepers. We've done that for sustainability, because basically building out a scaffolding, looking at things like health and safety, people bending over from the elderly to the little kids, you need something that's a little bit more practical. Also having these frames means they can grow up. So a lot of our community grows pumpkins, so that's quite helpful in having all of this. And it's also visually, you've got to imagine all of these people looking down. Traditionally, allotments used to be very messy, you know, just bits of rubbish thrown here, thrown there. So what we've done is we've tried to make it really uniformed, so when people look down, they're looking at something quite pretty, and that actually affects the way that they perceive, you know, their environment and where they live.
Each of the beds belongs to a different family. So we have 16 beds in this particular site. So, you know, in the real world, that hits around 200 people because they're extended families. But because you grow in here doesn't mean it's exclusively yours. It's a community space. So anybody else who lives around can actually come into the space if they choose to.
You find that people do grow together.
Absolutely,
so a lot of the women will come down now and interact here. So there's a space for them. You know, if you don't have a balcony or you don't want to be in the living room, it's somewhere to come out to and enjoy the out space and share, you know, share vegetables. They swap vegetables. They hook their beds up together and go across. So it's a nice way to bring people together. And also, as we'll be crossing over to the other side, there's a family centre. That means that the kids can also come over, grow, help out the mothers and the families. This again was just a piece of derelict space, and we had obviously, you know, it's nice to have vegetable growing sites and all of that, but we did think that there needed to be a safe place for kids to play. You know, you can imagine they're exposed to everything every day. The reason this site is locked is just quite purely so the kids, like, you know, teenagers don't come in the evenings, leave all their vodka bottles, leave all the things that we don't really need the kids to be exposed to all the time. In the summer, these grow really, really tall, which creates a nice private sort of space. And everything in here, except for the benches, has been sort of built. So all the wooden bits have been built using volunteers. And, you know, we put up again a perimeter fence to make sure the kids aren't running up under people's windows. So being very mindful of not just the space, but everything around that space. We'll move along just so, you know, we're very conscious we could talk for England. See, what's great about Rocky Park is if you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't actually find it. So what we like about having all these little pockets is it is community space, that is sort of a little bit hidden, and it's nice for all these residents to be able to come down. Sometimes you'll be in Rocky Park, you don't even feel like you're in London. It's really nice, just listen to the sound of the birds, you've got everything growing. We try and make it so it's not just vegetables, but flowers for biodiversity, you know, growing nasturtiums to keep the black flies away from the tomatoes, looking at a bit of complementary gardening and things like that.
Guys, come in. Right. Right, there we go. The area that you're in now is called Rocky Park, and it was a disused play area. Back in the early 90s, the government, bless them, they had this initiative. They had loads and loads of money. It was called City Challenge. They gave it to local authorities to do things with, but there was no strategic plan for after that. There was no way that there was any maintenance done. This area had some play equipment in it that was absolutely vandalised. It became an area where the youths were in here till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, which is fine. But with people living around, it got very intrusive. Playing football, drug dealing, drug taking.
Prostitution.
We had I don't like that word. We had the odd lady of the night who came in. It was just. It was not a very nice space to be in, and the residents around weren't very happy with it either. So we decided, as Sarah said when we were over in the nature reserve, as a tenants and residents association, historically what that meant is that the association would help people with rent arrears and if they had a problem with a repair. And as Sarah's already indicated, we decided to jump out of that box. Although really important, it's quite boring. And residents can usually deal with that themselves. If they've given the power and the knowledge and the telephone numbers, they can deal with it. So that's what we tend to do. We do help them if they need it, to be perfectly honest. But what we decided to do, we did a lot of consultation around here and asking people, what would you like here? What would you want? We had the odd swimming pool, the nightclub and all the other things, that came into play. But the main thing that came through was outside space, valuable outside space, growing space. Because most of our residents don't have garden space, and lots of them are overcrowded. Well, we are one of the poorest boroughs in the country, but that doesn't mean as a community we're not enriched. So we looked at how we could do this, and we decided, we did some soil testing, and there is a slight contamination in the ground, so we couldn't plant directly into the ground. And anyway, there was a hard standing surface, and that would have been a lot of money to actually take up. So we looked at the idea of growing beds, raised beds, and that sort of serves a lot of purposes, because residents that can't bend, it's good for. Kids, it's good if they can just stand there and do it. And also for our disabled residents, and also it solved the contamination side of it. Each bed is allocated to a family. We don't have waiting lists, because really couldn't stand people coming up every 5 minutes, when do I get a bed? That would drive me to insanity, and Sarah, of course. But what we do it on a priority. If there's a family that want to grow together, if somebody has an illness and they want some outside space, people that haven't got a garden get top priority, obviously, or a balcony, they get top priority. And it's sort of flourished. It's been 4 years now, and
shall we
take a walk round, you'll see.
Yeah.
We have an orchard at the bottom. And
I think also it's important to say that this actually only started off with 16 allotments. In its first year, it was only this little beginning half, and then we managed to secure some funds, and the fence used to be where the barrier is, where we've sort of done these climbing frames. And what was really exciting was we managed to build, as we walked down, all of the allotments going down the side and a few more in a day using, how many volunteers do we have?
We had 45 volunteers.
We had 45 volunteers. Yeah. It was, that's what I mean, like the power is in numbers. It's amazing what you can achieve in a day, and having, that fence moved and going from 16 to 36 was a really nice jump like that. Feel free to walk around.
How old is the orchard?
Well, this orchard is 3 years old now, but this is not the actual orchard. This is an extension to the orchard. So the first orchard will be on the other side that we'll go to quite soon. But we also put fruit trees in here, because this bit of grass, it's all nice to have bits of grass, but also having the fruit trees in an allotment site is quite nice as well. And what we're doing around the back side of this is a grow to sell area. So we've utilised the whole space. We've built raised beds that's got the soil in it, and that will soon be a whole grow to sell area. We'll be doing boxes of herbs, so 1 box of all coriander, easy to cultivate, sell on. Hopefully we'll be alongside the medicinal weeds that Michael's producing, and we could do something really nice there.
Nasturtiums, yeah. They flowered all through the winter.
Yeah, because they can't be that big.
No.
Mine are not that big.
These are all from last year,
Yeah.
honestly.
Amazing.
And can I tell you, most of them, I mean, I decided to make them as climbers because I like to see them climb.
Yeah.
But mostly
Trending,
all
so.
of that was self-seeded.
Yeah.
I had them in the bed there, as you can see,
Yeah.
and they just self-seeded. And what we did last year, we did a grow to sell. We sold the flowers.
Yes.
Guys, has anybody tasted nasturtiums? Because go and taste them.
Come on, everybody, please be brave and pick a flower or a leaf. I like the flowers just because it's a nice idea to be eaten.
And I don't think that a colour will make a difference. I think they taste the same.
They all taste the same. I've already
Taste them.
experimented on this.
And tell us what you feel. They really are okay, honestly.
So this is the first urban orchard in Tower Hamlets. Hopefully in the future we'll have an adopt a tree scheme. So the kids that, you know, there's quite a few in the odds in Ellsworth Street that look out onto it and they'll be able to adopt a tree. Reason it's still locked is that the fruit trees aren't established yet. So we can't really let people in as of like until another year or so, until the trees are fully established and they won't get snapped or broken. And down the back is strawberries. We started with 6 plants 4 years ago.
Yeah,
and oh
absolutely.
my God, I couldn't tell you how many plants, and down the back there is just filled with them.
To be mindful, this area here had been locked up since I was 9 years old and there was nothing here. And to actually get this to the stage it is now, which doesn't look a lot, we've had to be really very sensitive to the guys that live either side because that's their front room windows, and the fact that people are going to be going in there, walking up against them when they're not used to that. That's something we've been very, very mindful. So as Sarah says, it's not open all the time. There's times when it's open, anyone can go in there. Again, anyone can ask for a key if they want one, and they do. So the residents, what we've tried to do on the estate is all the areas that have been non-productive, shall we say, that hasn't had anything happen to them, that have been locked up, not been able to be used, we've tried to bring them back into the usage for the blocks nearest them. Yeah. That doesn't mean that the people from the other side of the estate can't come over, but they will have their own areas on the other side that they get access to all the time. So it's a bit like opening up green spaces so people can use them. And that's what we've tried to do.
Yeah, because it's the fact that in London having that outdoor space is you know, you're very lucky to have it if you've got a garden. It's nice to have some common ground to come down and interact on because, you know, I don't have space to invite people in, but if there's space to interact in, then it makes a big difference to sort of the way we interact with one another.
Last year there was bundles of apples, and this year we're hopeful that it's been a good season this year. I mean, the weather has really, really helped, and we'll have picking days where people can come and pick the fruit themselves, you know, residents. And with the strawberries, I think we got about 30 pounds of strawberries last year.
Two massive recycle bags full.
It was just amazing. And again, that's for residents to come and take and share.
What we'll be doing next is cutting through the next couple of blocks. And again, it's not, you know, just looking at different spaces and how you can make that a nice place for people to live in. Guys, basically also just to give you an idea, again, it's not just about growing food and all of that. This fence here used to be, as you can see, that really horrible maroon colour. It was quite funny though, because it wasn't supposed to be this bright, but it's actually worked. We painted it really to sort of, this is a very dark street at night, so if people are hanging out on the wall further up, it's a little unsafe. And by painting it this colour, it did feel like midday at midnight, because I was like, my kitchen window looks onto this. And I was like, whoa, it's really bright. But what it's done is it's created a safety. So if I'm walking from here, I can see all the way down and I can see what's going on. And when the cars come through, it reflects, because it's an oil-based paint, it reflects over. So it really brightens up the area and it's much safer. Like, I never used to walk this way, but now I'm like, oh yeah, it's fine.
The only thing is now is you have to be careful of the planes that land, because it does look like an airstrip of a night, believe me.
Yeah, and again, it's just like, whoa, it's really bright. And we'll cut through, take you, don't worry, we're almost done. A few more sites to go. Uh-oh. Okay, guys, welcome to Kettleston Walk. This is the latest growing site that's still very much work in progress. So a lot of our sites kind of looked like this to begin with, and through different corporate challenges, different volunteering days, it's updated it to what it is. It was completely grassed over. You can see the grass is popping through, but that just needs some more wood chippings put down onto it. Again, raised beds, having the climbing frames, and getting the water supply popped in. Max, you want to?
Yeah, as Sarah said, this is our newest site. So not all the beds are taken, but not all the residents have started growing yet. But you can see what's happening so far. And we don't have any trouble finding people that want growing spaces, honestly. If there are any available, we put it in our newsletter. We put a newsletter out every couple of months, and then people will show an interest, and everybody knows. I mean, you might move on our estate tomorrow and somebody could have been here 10 years, but if that person with 10 years has got the garden, they won't get the growing space. That person that came yesterday would be the person that will get it. So, and people are aware of that. We don't have any problems with it. People look after their own spaces.
Our idea is to have a compost heap in the corner there, sort of build a raised bed along the back wall that climbers can grow up and create that sort of microclimate / privacy. And, you know, also along here we have these, so, you know, having things that plants can grow up is a really nice thing. Creates that sort of nice little space.
Perfect.
Cool. We're almost done, so
this is our community centre on the estate, and this is our community garden. The area here was just a piece of grass that had been used, abused for years. And when we took on the responsibility of the community centre, we decided to make it a community space that people would come into and chill out. The special needs school use it, different people use it for different things. A lot of the work, or most of the work I should say in here, has been done by Michael with volunteers. We'll call him the head gardener, shall we? Let's give him a title. He's not even listening. But sort of Michael makes it. What I would say as well is all the plants in here have been taken. When the Parks Department chuck their plants out at the end of the year, we go and collect them up. The trees, the same. Everything is recycled in this garden.
And basically you can't really see them through to the back, but there's a lot of cut out bed spaces, and that's all been done in order to give it a really nice sort of landscape and also create that biodiversity. The eucalyptus trees that are massive, again, were found. Everything has been donated or found, or as Margaret says, walking around with wheelbarrows at the end of the planting season, collecting them from the Parks Department, which is...
Another one of my silly little stories. Down at St Matthew's Church, St Matthew's Church, sorry, Rev Kev came along and he wanted to scatter his ashes for his cremations in here. He thought it was such a peaceful space, but we decided that maybe some of our residents wouldn't like that very much, so that didn't get a thumbs up.
Yeah.
But it's a really nice space to be in, and lots of different people use it. Today we have an Islamic school that use it. We've got about 35 kids that are on the estate that come here on Saturdays and Sunday mornings up till 1 o'clock. So it's a really used space. The other groups that use it, again, having no money, we always attract groups that haven't got any money. And but it's a community space, and that's the idea of a community space. And, you know, these are groups that maybe 4 or 5 people that want to put something on. And we have somebody here to say hi. Hi, guys. How you doing?
Did you enjoy school
Did you have a good day?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Huh?
You're right, Sarah. Thank you.
Great. So, again, we've kind of got a bit of an idea for this space. But, again, we're doing consultation. I'm kind of keen to either extend it as part of the community garden and sort of have it as a nice little space. We had to lock it because it did turn into a big dog toilet, and that isn't really the idea, because, you know, if you want kids to play, people to sort of have a space, it's not really fair if people off the estate bring their dogs on there just as a toilet. So at the minute it's in consultation as to what it's going to be. I wouldn't mind having a little hammock and doing it as a bit of a garden, but we'll see what happens with what the residents want, really.
And if you just look to your right, you'll see another mural that we did. At one point in time that was graffitied all the time, honestly.
Like that.
But since we've put the mural up, which has been 2.5 years now, never had a bit of graffiti on it. One of the little ladies that lived in there, she used to go, her family all emigrated to America, and she used to go over all the time to see them. Then she got a heart condition and she couldn't go anymore because of the flying, and she hadn't seen them for quite a number of years. And we did the mural, we did consultation and we did the mural, and then a couple of weeks later what she did is she came running up to me, and I didn't know whether to hide or whatever. I thought, what's going to happen? And she threw her arms around my neck and she said, thank you so much. With the wall being muraled, she invited her family over. And I know it's a really silly little story, but it shows you the impact that doing something, because before the graffiti, it was all graffiti on there.
Fly tippers. This used to be fly tippers heaven, and by putting the mural there, which it started off as this little half, and because it was so popular we extended it all the way through, but it stopped the fly tippers because residents actually come out and tell them not to. And as Margaret says, taking pride in where they live and wanting somewhere nice that they can invite their family over.
And I think one thing that was important as well as about that, when we was actually doing the mural, it was amazing how many residents came out, not only joined in, but bought us food. Seriously, they fed us. Some of it was a bit, was it food or wasn't it food? But no, seriously, so it just proves by doing something, you know, people don't always know how to go about doing something, but encourages them to be involved.
Cool, so now basically we've done a circle around our estate and we're back to the nature reserve.
Still people who, you know, aren't going to say hello, but it is on the whole, they're really friendly.
But before we go, should we just have a quick word and just to say,
Go for it.
well, we're back where we started, and I think that's really a good place to be. I don't think we talked about it a lot in the beginning, but this area is really special to local residents. It's quite unique, to be perfectly honest. There aren't many areas like this within Tower Hamlets, and so the resource here is so valuable that it needs to be looked after, it needs to be kept. And there was a lot of the issues around building on sort of areas throughout Tower Hamlets, and we were really, really mindful that this could be one of them areas, because it's owned jointly, not only by, the school has sort of some rights down that end, Tower Hamlets Council has rights there.
It's in three, isn't it?
You know, there's lots of interest, if you like, and with the building that was going on, we was really, really worried. So we decided to take it under our wing, if you like, and sort of get a lease to the property, to the area. But that doesn't mean it's ours. This is a resource for everybody. You know, although it fringes on our estate, it's a welcoming site for anybody.
And also just to put in a safe house for the natural environment. It's a wild space for all the native flora and fauna to just sort of have its thing, let it grow wild. You know, got wild plums here. We're trying to keep it as a protected place. When you get off the estate, the sound of the birds in here is intense. So, you know, over there you won't hear them. The second you come here, this is a safe house for nature, you know, and that's really important. I think that's very overlooked by our society in general at the minute. So, you know, being mindful and conscious of what's around us and allowing that just to be free and wild is really important.